Possibly the most iconic game that has ever come from Ninjago is going to be the Shadow of Ronin, because it was one of the first and one of the biggest games that they've actually created that was also based on the TV show itself. Now, the big question that has come from that game is whether or not it is actually canon to the show, and there's reason to believe that it is, and there's also reason to believe that there isn't. But I'm not going to go into that today. If you want a video where I try to dissect whether or not it is canon, please let me know, but I only want to talk about one specific aspect of that game, and that is the obsidian weapons. Because, well, they're really fascinating, and they're really interesting to actually try and decipher, especially considering that Tommy Andreasen himself has actually believed that those weapons are actually canon to the show itself. So, if they're canon to the show and they actually did exist, what is the explanation for them? Because they're very interesting to say it the least, and, well, they have a lot of similarities to the golden weapons. So let's actually try and figure out what the weapons are, because even though we had a whole game surrounding them, well, we don't really know much about them. But that's going to be what I'm going to try and decipher today, and I'm also going to give you a very brief history on where the weapons actually came from, well, as much as we know anyway, because we know a little bit, aka where they were, but that's really about it. So let's get into it before I start theorizing. So, of course, the weapons were introduced in the game Shadow of Ronin, and they were used as the way for the ninja to regain their memories after Ronin stole it with the obsidian glaive. And, well, that's the thing, that's the fifth weapon, and truth be told, it was the most difficult thing to decipher for this video, because, well, here's the other four. We have the obsidian sword, which looks identical to the sword of fire apart from the part of black. We have the obsidian scythe, which again looks like the scythe of Quakes, but with black. And the obsidian nunchucks, which looks like the nunchucks of lightning, but again with a bit of black. So of course that means the shurikens of ice as well. Nope! Because they decided that it's going to be the obsidian sais, which obviously share no relation to the nunchucks of ice, but also shares the abilities of the nunchucks of ice. So those are the four, but then of course the obsidian glaive, which is a completely unique weapon. And where were these four weapons found, you may be asking? Well, the exact same place that the golden weapons were found as well. So we have weapons that look like the golden weapons, perform like the golden weapons, and were found in the exact same place as the golden weapons. And they're canon. Brilliant. But like I said, these weapons were all obtained one by one, not in the same order as the pilots, but were all obtained with the intention of the ninja regaining their memory. And when they did, they also became the Zuka Ninja, which was a whole nother thing, but I think that was just to advertise the fact that that was when the Season 4 sets were out. But yeah, once you regain your ability, you apparently gain your most recent suit as well, which is another thing. But, like I said, that is basically all we really know about the weapons, and that's leaving so much to actual interpretation. So let's get into it. So I'm going to talk about the four weapons that the ninja used first, because the obsidian glaive is a completely different bag of cats that I don't want to get into, yet anyways. But the golden or the obsidian weapons, they seem to have a lot of similarities, and that is where I'm going to get into my theory of where they came from. And that is, well, they were created by the first Ninjitsu master, but not as a direct replacement for the golden weapons. I don't think they were meant to be golden weapons per se. I think they were meant to be the sister of the weapons, essentially. I think they were meant to be a way to channel additional elemental power, almost serving as backup weapons. But again, there's something very specific about them that I think does actually change the opinion a little bit. And that is, of course, the introduction of obsidian. Because while the weapons, for the most part, are made of gold, and my theory is that it's the same gold from the Golden Peaks, because of course they have to hold that elemental power. But where did the obsidian come from, and why is there obsidian to begin with? And well, I think it links back to Ronin. And not as in the first Ninjitsu master created them for Ronin. I think they were created for ghosts. And that is why Ronin has such a fascination with the weapons. Because I don't think that the weapons are made from obsidian. And of course this is a whole thing because they're called the obsidian weapons, but I think they're not actually obsidian, or at least not the same substance as it. I actually think the black of the weapons are deep stone. And I think that is because, the first Ninjitsu Master, of course, is familiar with the other realms. He visited every single realm. We know that for a fact. So I believe the first Ninjitsu Master was actually afraid of the ghosts, or at least the ghosts trying to take over other realms, more specifically the Preeminent. So I think he splintered the elemental powers of creation into separate weapons that could also prevent ghosts. And I think that's why Ronin mainly used the Obsidian Glaive, because it's tipped in Deepstone, which will prevent ghosts. But that is why I believe the first Ninjitsu Master created them, and also creates them a little bit differently. I do think the only explanation as to why there's obsidian involved is actually because it's truly Deepstone, because it shares all the similarities with it, and like I said, I think it just makes sense as to why Ronin was so fascinated by it. But of course, then that leads to the question of, why did the ninja not know about them, or why did Wu not know about them beforehand? And why did he actually end up not finding them when they were in the exact same place as where the golden weapons were? And I think it's because the first Ninjitsu Master wasn't overly worried at that point in time. I just think he simply had them as a just in case. But then it also leads to, how did Wu hide them away in this exact same place the first Ninjitsu Master left his weapons? And I personally think that comes down to what I said in a previous video, which is that I think the first Ninjitsu Master had a hand in the creation of the Sword of Sanctuary. So I think to an extent, he foresaw where the golden weapons were going to end up by Wu, so he thought he would hide them in the exact same place to essentially double up, because they were going to be protected by a dragon anyway, and I think to an extent the first Ninjitsu Master is omnipotent. So yeah, I just think he simply knew where they were going to go, which is very loose, I understand, but it's the only reason I can explain why they would end up in the exact same place. But like I said, that's my idea on who created them, what they're actually made of, and how they ended up where they were. And that is all well and good. I do think I've somewhat been able to manage how it is and how it is meant to be. But there's one more thing that comes with it, I guess. And that, of course, is the Obsidian Glaive. Because the problem is that the Obsidian Glaive, it follows the same logic. We have no idea where it actually came from. We don't know how Ronin actually got the Obsidian Glaive. We have no indication on where it came from. We have no indication on how long he had it. It's a really weird one, and there's not much explanation for that weapon. And there's just not really much of a way to explain it. I don't think they really relied on that idea. But if it was my best guess, Ronin simply found it. But why would these first Ninjitsu Master have a weapon that could remove or alter memories? And well, my only idea is that he had it as a just in case for whenever he needed to get rid of memories or alter memories of anyone regarding anything he wanted to keep secret. Because, well, he had to get his mysterious ways somehow, and I think that to an extent is the Obsidian Glaive. And there's a few things that back me up on this, but bear with. Because there are two main things that make me think, well, how else would he have done it without someone knowing but then later forgetting? The first one being the scrolls of Forbidden Spinjitzu. Wu is just none the wiser to what happened to those scrolls. And the first Ninjitsu Master always leaves clues. So it's one of those things where I feel like he should have known, but how did he not know? Well, a device that got rid of memories would certainly help that. And the other one being the tomb itself. Because how would the first Ninjitsu Master been able to do everything he had in that tomb without anyone being the wiser? And how would he even get there without anyone actually noticing that he was gone? Well, again, I think he simply removed those memories, and I think that's the only reason why he was able to get to the tomb without anyone knowing, and also was able to hide the scrolls, again, without anyone knowing. And I think there's a whole lot more in terms of what could and what couldn't he have done, but those are the two main examples. So I do think it still makes sense that he would have created the Obsidian Glaive. I just think it's a weird departure from the first Ninjitsu Master's usual MO. But again, I do think there's reason to believe that he was the creator, because who else would have been able to create the obsidian weapons? And again, have them imbued with the powers of creation. So they kind of have to come as a package deal. So if my theory is correct, the first Ninjitsu Master also created the glaive. But the final thing to do with the weapons is, well, where are they now? Because we see them fall through a portal at the end of the game, and also this is taken into account that you believe the game is canon, but the last time we saw them, they fell through a portal, which presumably went through to the Cursed Realm. So they're in the preeminence? Well, technically, but I also have another idea. If my theory is to be believed, and those weapons are also made from deep stone, well, the ghost wouldn't actually be able to handle the weapons. Or at the very least, they would die trying. But the thing is, if they were able to use those obsidian weapons, they would have, because, well, they have the power of creation. But that again coincides with my deep stone theory. When they fell through the portal, they presumably killed the ghosts as they went through, so they weren't able to use them regardless of the fact that they were strong. So presumably they're just still within the preeminence. Or they cut through the preeminence, and that is why she was essentially as angry as she was in Season 5, because again, if they're made of deep stone, they would have sliced right through her. So I think the weapons are essentially either in the belly of the beast, or they're in a weird space of nothing between the realms because they fell through the cursed realm, which means they're probably unobtainable at this point, and we probably will never see them again. But I'm kind of glad of that, because I think if they did fully introduce the weapons to the show, I think that would create a whole lot more problems than we need. But that was my look into the obsidian weapons and what they are, what they're made of, and who made them. And let me know if you do agree with the ideas I have, because, well, these weapons are extremely vague. That's the thing. They're so down to interpretation that I could be completely wrong. But this is my best guess with what we know about the weapons and what they do. But let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Please let me know, because I would love to see another perspective as to what these weapons actually are. Because if Tommy Andreasen is correct and they are canon, then we need to understand what these weapons actually are and what they do. But that is about it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Take care. Okay. Bye.